Be groovy, comment, like, share, subscribe.
Famous Monsters magazine, an iconic publication within the horror and science fiction genre, has an incredible history that parallels the rise of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror as mainstream entertainment. Founded by Forrest J. Ackerman, the magazine played a pivotal role in shaping and popularizing nerd culture, showing the world just how cool and fun the genre could be. Let's dive into the incredible odyssey of Famous Monsters magazine, one of the coolest and most influential pop culture magazines of all time.
Initiate sequence. Retrotron Entertainment presents
That 70s Nerd. Famous Monsters magazine was first introduced to the world in 1958, with its debut issue hitting the newsstands in February of that year. Forrest J. Ackerman, known as Forry to his friends, a passionate enthusiast of science fiction, horror films, and monster-related content, created the magazine. Ackerman's vision was to create a publication that celebrated and explored the realms of horror cinema, fantasy, and the macabre. The magazine's early years were characterized by its unique blend of content, articles on classic horror films, interviews with actors and filmmakers, behind-the-scenes features, and high-quality artwork, all served up with loads of corny jokes and puns. Forry endeared himself to other fans by opening up his home, the famous Acker Mansion, as a collector's museum and must-see nerd tourist attraction. As the years went by, Famous Monsters magazine evolved to reflect the changing landscape of horror and science fiction entertainment. It provided a platform for fans to connect, discuss, and appreciate their shared love for creatures and monsters from the realms of cinema and literature. The magazine's influence extended beyond its pages, fostering a community of enthusiasts who engaged in spirited conversations about their favorite monsters, movies, and characters. One of the magazine's most significant contributions was its role in preserving the history and legacy of classic horror films. At a time when information about these movies was not as readily accessible, Famous Monsters magazine published articles, interviews, and photographs that celebrated the golden age of horror cinema. This archival approach helped introduce younger generations to the works of iconic horror film stars like Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney Jr. In the realm of horror and science fiction cinema, a significant number of authors, special effects artists, and filmmakers have drawn inspiration from Famous Monsters magazine. Steven Spielberg. Known as one of the most influential directors in the history of cinema, Spielberg's early fascination with filmmaking was sparked in part by his exposure to Famous Monsters of Filmland. The magazine's coverage of iconic creatures like Frankenstein and Dracula fueled his imagination, which eventually led to the creation of his groundbreaking film Jaws in 1975. Peter Jackson, director of The Frighteners, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and King Kong, is on record as a fan. As well as Rick Baker, makeup special effects artist behind the original Star Wars, Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, An American Werewolf in London, Gorillas in the Mist, and the original Men in Black, is also a vocal fan of the magazine. Joe Dante, the director of Gremlins, Piranha, and Explorers, was also a fan. He had this to say about the magazine. Before I read Famous Monsters, I was interested in movies to the point where I was making lists, and I was going through the Motion Picture Herald magazines and writing down all the pictures with flying saucers in them. But there really wasn't much written about these kinds of movies. I think that with the appearance of Famous Monsters, a lot of people became interested in something in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been interested in without that. John Landis, renowned for his work on An American Werewolf in London, was heavily influenced by the magazine's coverage of werewolves and other creatures. His film paid homage to the genre's traditions while infusing it with a modern twist. Tim Burton. Renowned for his gothic and eccentric style, Tim Burton was enamored with the magazine's content, which celebrated the macabre and fantastical. His filmography, featuring works like Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and Sleepy Hollow, is replete with elements culled from the pages of famous monsters. Guillermo del Toro. His works, steeped in the fantastical and the monstrous, exhibit a profound connection to the content of famous Monsters of Filmland. Of the impact of famous monsters, Guillermo recalled, "There was nothing like it at all. Back then you had very pale imitations here and there that would come up and died very quickly. But I think that the connection we all had was with Forey. It was the connection you feel when a very strange uncle comes to visit the family, almost like a Ray Bradbury story, where the character realizes he is weird, but is not alone." Guillermo even went so far as to write a letter asking Forrest J. Ackerman to adopt him. Stephen King also confesses to having been a fan, stating in his memoir on writing, "Ask anyone who has been associated with the fantasy, horror, science fiction genres in the last 30 years about this magazine, and you'll get a laugh, a flash of the eyes, and a stream of bright memories. I practically guarantee it." Famous Monsters magazine's impact was not confined to its initial years. It left an indelible mark on popular culture that persists to this day. Its influence can be seen in the continued popularity of horror conventions, cosplay events, and fan communities that celebrate monsters and genre entertainment. The magazine's legacy lives on through Ackerman's vision of fostering a sense of belonging for fans of horror and science fiction, Ackerman's passion for the genre, and his dedication to creating a space where fans could connect has set a precedent for subsequent publications and media platforms dedicated to niche interests. Famous Monsters magazine played a special role in shaping the horror and science fiction landscape by celebrating classic films, promoting community engagement, and nurturing creativity. Its legacy continues to thrive through the countless enthusiasts, artists, writers, and filmmakers who have been inspired by its pages. As a historical artifact and cultural touchstone, Famous Monsters magazine remains a cherished icon in the world of horror and fantasy entertainment. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications so you never miss out on new videos and community posts.